Welcome viewers, once again it's me, Ewaenruwa Nomaren from A Place to Fear God. In this channel, we learn about God, His beloved Son, Jesus Christ, and their kingdom purpose, the three most important subjects that we can ever learn about, talk about, think about, or discuss in the entire Holy Bible if we read John chapter 17, verse 3. This video is dedicated to discussing the subject, what is belief? However, I'm not going to get into that subject without us first of all getting warmed up by a tune that some of us might enjoy. To reiterate, the subject that I am going to be discussing today is captioned, what is belief? It's essentially the concept or the idea of taking interest in something, be it a thing or a person or even an idea, to the extent that you use your life to embellish and move that idea or person or thing forward. The principles of that, you use your life to support it, and you defend it when people are talking trash about it or people are speaking against it. And when that idea is under persecution, you will still stand with it and face the consequences that come from doing so. That concept fits all cases, the hierarchy of obedience, if we read 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Every level of that hierarchy has its sense of belief. When a child tells his or her parents that I believe in you, he or she is saying that whatever you do, whatever you want me to do, that is what I am going to use my life as a child under your leadership and stuff to do. And anytime people talk trash about you, I don't go join them, supports them. When you guys are poor, let's say, or financial or other kind of hardships, I will always be on your side, and I will still be an obedient child and not make decisions and parenting very difficult for you. And when we talk about believing in God and believing in Jesus Christ, it's the same idea. And the Bible has provided many verses said by various people to help explain the various factors that make up belief. For example, if we read Romans chapter 1, verse 16, when St. Paul was telling people about the faith that he has in Jesus Christ and the belief that he shows toward him, he stated, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation to every one that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek." He wasn't shameful, sheepish to be a Christian. He wasn't afraid of people who might not have been so agreed with such an idea. He was proud to be a Christian and to believe in Jesus Christ. That is belief. If we look at Galatians chapter 6, verse 12, St. Paul was talking to the people of Galatia about others who looked at circumcision, the hard circumcision, knew was the best kind, but didn't want to teach it because they didn't really believe in Christ. And there, he stated, "As many as desire to make a fair shew in the flesh, they constrain you to be circumcised, only lest they should suffer persecution for the cross of Christ." They might have looked like they wanted to believe, but they didn't because of the facts that they themselves weren't really in support of the whole ordeal. And in Matthew chapter 7, verse 21, Jesus Christ had also given us an idea on what it really means to believe. Not every one that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. See also Luke chapter 6 from verses 46 to 49, Romans chapter 2 verse 13, John chapter 13 verse 17, and James chapter 1 from verses 22 to 25. That is how to believe, and this fits what James the apostle had stated in James chapter 2 from verses 14 straight down to the end of the chapter, verse 36, where he took the time to explain the fact that faith or belief without works doesn't mean anything. In order to believe, we have to support that idea, fight for that idea, defend that idea, and live according to that idea. And that is what belief means. And there are many examples in the Bible of people who had demonstrated this definition that I have just given. For example, in Genesis chapter 15 verse 6, Abraham believed in God and God counted it to him as righteousness. Now, this belief wasn't just, oh, well, God promised me something and I believe it's going to happen. Abraham did not just do that, but he even went a step further to make sure that his children were completely aware of what God planned on doing. That was why in Genesis chapter 18 verse 19, God didn't want to hide what he was going to do to Sodom and Gomorrah because Abraham believed in him. And I'm going to get to why God did that later in this video. But nonetheless, Abraham didn't just say he believed, or it was said that he believed, but he demonstrated that by raising his children according to that and always using what God told him to live his life so that he wouldn't be getting proud or try to build a nation without God's intervention. Other stuff in that direction. If we read 1 Samuel chapter 17 from verses 1 to 58, David showed his belief by anytime when he heard Goliath defying God's name, going against Exodus chapter 20 verse 7, saying all kinds of rubbish about him and stuff, he didn't feel comfortable. It felt very unsettling, very disturbing, and because of that, even though David was just a shepherd boy, he wasn't this big man, strong, didn't have war experience really, and he was going against a 10.5-foot man, or a man of 6 cubits and 1 span. But because he believed in God, he showed that by saying, I don't care how small I am, I can't be listening to you defying my God with all your stupid mouth and stuff. So then he took pebbles and with God's power killed him by the pebble or the stone hitting his forehead. Then in Numbers chapters 13 and 14, Joshua and Caleb also demonstrated their belief in God, because they, even though there were 10 spies that were saying, no, we're grasshoppers, there's absolutely no way we can go to the land of Canaan because the cities are fortified and the people there are as big as mountains and stuff like that, Joshua and Caleb still said, no, I believe that God can do this. And they were so enthusiastic that they were like, let's go occupy, let's go defeat them, let's go inherit the promised land. They were enthusiastic and stuff because they had interest in what God wanted for them, and they believed as a result, and they showed that belief by talking righteously, being honest, and they faced persecution because people wanted to stone them in Numbers chapter 14. And you can see how that whole thing worked in my other video, How the Spirits Work Among Men, where I took the time to explain this story in more detail. This whole discussion is kind of pointless without explaining how do we believe in Jesus. Well, the same principle applies, because Jesus Christ had told us in various places that we have to believe in him. He that believeth on me hath everlasting life. John chapter 6 verse 47, John chapter 3 verse 16, John chapter 3 verse 36, and a gazillion other places. But nonetheless, we have to understand, believing in Jesus Christ, as I cited earlier, is not just saying, I believe in Jesus. Jesus Christ preached a lot. We see it all over the 4 Gospels. When we take Jesus Christ's words, we read them, we understand them, and we say, I want these words to rule my life, then we are believing in Jesus. If we believe in John chapter 6 verse 63, that Jesus Christ's words are spirit and our life, and we use that to preside over our lives. We judge according to that. We make decisions according to that. We raise our families according to that. We teach that to our children, like Abraham had done with the whole nation of that I'm going to build out of you and stuff. In Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 7, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and thou shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. It's the same idea. And by the way, I have another verse breakdown on that, Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 7. If you want to understand how that whole process works, you can check that out on my other channel, Bible Verse Breakdown. But the concept is, if we want to believe in Jesus, we have to understand his words and use that to live our lives. And when people are being hypocrites, when people are talking trash about Jesus, when people want to deceive people about Jesus, because we believe in him, we will not just hop in and say, oh yes, Jesus Christ is this, Jesus Christ is that. No, we will keep the commandments that he reinforced that God had set up from the beginning. And Jesus Christ told us that if we want to be his friend, if we want to love him, we have to do what? Keep his commandments. If we read John chapter 4 verse 14 verse 15 and the inverted chapter 15 verse 14. And there are examples in the Bible of people who, yes, believed in Jesus. For example, Joseph of Arimathea in John chapter 19 from verses 38 to 40 had shown his belief in Jesus by donating the tomb that he planned to bury himself in the future to Jesus. If we read Matthew chapter 26 from verses 6 to 13, there was a woman who believed in Jesus Christ's teachings and took a very precious, expensive oil, like you getting a very expensive perfume, and she used it to clean or to sanctify, in a sense, or anoint Jesus Christ's feet. It was his feet, remember, not even his face or something, his feet of all things. And the disciples were like, why don't you sell this? Give it to the poor and stuff, as if they were trying to be righteous by saying that. But Jesus Christ said, no. If she wants to do this, good. She's clearly showing her belief. And she's going to be written in the books and remembered because she did this thing. And of course, that's why I'm able to tell you that she did that. It's because she believed in Jesus. If we read Acts chapters 2 and 4, we see the same belief because there were people who, after hearing the gospel message about Jesus in Acts chapter 2, the whole chapter before verse 37, they were so remorseful that they were pricked in their hearts and they sold all their possessions and continuously thanked God, glorified God, broke bread, were happy, like Jesus Christ himself was, because they believed him. When we talk about belief and everything that I have just said, we don't just go empty with that. There are rewards that we get, and I'm going to use an analogy to help explain this. When somebody knows that you believe in him or her, he or she will always be looking out for you, making sure that all your needs are kept, making sure that your requests are granted, making sure that you're happy in the position that you are. They'll never leave you sad and stuff because they know you believe in them. They'll also trust you because they know that you are somebody that believes in them and will stick with their principles. And kings in the Bible, in the history of Christianity, etc., they always had those chief commanders and chief assistants, advisors, because he trusted that they believed in him and therefore would give him the best advice that would help him build the kingdom, succeed, and other stuff like that. And if we take this to the Bible, we see the same thing. In John chapter 15, verse 7, Jesus Christ had stated, if ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. See also Matthew chapter 21, verse 22, and all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. And 1 John chapter 3, verse 22, which states, and whatsoever we ask, we receive of him, because we keep his commandments and do those things that are pleasing in his sight. And I promised you that I would reference the story of Abraham, and I will do that now, because as a result of the fact that God knew that Abraham believed in him, When he wanted to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, he didn't just want to do it without telling Abraham about it. He wanted Abraham to know that I'm going to do this. Now, it wasn't that God needed him to know. He could have just not cared. But he was bothered because he knew that Abraham believed in him. And he didn't want Abraham to be taken by surprise and be like, oh, what's going on? And be shocked and stuff. But all of this belief stuff might not be in our lives currently. But if we want to get it in our lives, well, how do we exactly do that? Well, there are steps to doing so. And yes, once again, an analogy will help us understand this. When you want to believe in a soccer team, what will you do? Well, you'll watch all their matches. Anytime you know that they're going to be playing against another team, you will immediately hop in and watch the game. You will buy all their merchandise, shoes, pants, shirts, hats, watches, etc. Anything that they have, you will be the first one to buy them. Anytime people are talking about the team and they're talking about it in a good light, you'll join in, say whatever you know about it. And when people are talking bad about it, you will disagree with them. You will feel offended. You will feel disturbed by it because you want to build your belief in that team. And similarly, when we want to believe in God, we should study the Bible to come and have an idea, an understanding on God's principles. You read 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 15, James chapter 1 verse 25, and Joshua chapter 1 verse 8, talking about meditating about such things. And God has sent out prophets in these last days. If we read Jeremiah chapter 3 verse 15, so that they can be feeding people with the necessary knowledge and understanding to build their belief in God. Because of course, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. If we read Romans chapter 10 verse 17. And once we do that, experiences will help build up that belief more. I hope you now understand what belief means and, of course, how to acquire it. We have to understand when we believe in God and in Jesus Christ, we must make sure that belief does not leave us. We transfer it to the things of the world. No, rather, we should love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. For if any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him, etc. If we read 1 John chapter 2 from verses 15 to 17. And if we read Job chapter 13 verse 10, we see the same concept. He will surely reprove you if ye do secretly accept persons. What is that accepting of persons? It's the concept of secretly wanting to believe in the world, but also attempting to believe in God too. Remember, we cannot serve two masters. If we read Matthew chapter 6 verse 24 and Luke chapter 16 verse 13. Rather, we should keep our faith in God steady, even if his institution is being persecuted. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And that is where I believe I can end on discussing this very important and entertaining subject. What is belief? To conclude this episode, we are once again going to be entertained with a tune that some of us might be familiar with. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell to be notified when we make future videos just like this. And I will once again emphasize, we should be proud believing in God. We shouldn't be ashamed, sheepish, scared, afraid, but rather we should be proud that God has called us to the faith. If we read 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 8, Paul had advised Timothy, be not thou therefore ashamed of the testimony of our Lord, nor of me his prisoner, but be thou partaker of the afflictions of the gospel according to the power of God. Thank you for listening.